Welcome back to the Investor Professor podcast. This is Dr. Ryan Peckham, and this is episode 57. Man, we got a lot to talk about this week. We had a huge week of earnings, but I also want to talk to you about being obsessed and how obsession can help you in your career, when you're saving money, your investments, plugging into others. I'm going to highlight some people that I follow that I feel like are obsessed with what they do and how I draw inspiration. So I've been looking forward to this podcast for quite a while and excited to make it happen today. So get your mind right. Let's get to work. All right. Well, welcome back to the show, everybody. Excited to do this show on being obsessed. Something I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks, wanting to put a show together like this. And I know I've had my shows on Balanced, and I've said that I'm definitely not the person to talk about being fully balanced all the time, and that sometimes you have to be kind of obsessed. And I've definitely been in that the last couple months, and will probably be so the next couple months. It's just kind of how my personality, when the market isn't doing well, I get really zoned in. And this past earnings week was pretty incredible. When you look at some of the companies that we have discussed and how well they've done versus some of the companies that haven't done so well. And so I mentioned this before, but once you have a big market sell-off like we've obviously already had this year, you know, the cream rises to the top, right? So we get this economic data. The Fed raised interest rates again, 75 basis points. And then you had the GDP number, gross domestic product number come out. It wasn't that great. And the market still went up. And I have clients calling me, man, I thought today was going to be a horrible day. How's the market doing better? Well, it's because the market is forward looking. And so some of these rate hikes are starting to work, and it's starting to bring down economic activity, which it's supposed to do. And so the worry is it going to do it too much, right, and push us into a recession? And you have this high inflation number. But again, I always come back to there's not that many good companies, right? There are not that many good companies in the world for you to invest in. There's just not. But the thing about when you think about inflation, when you think about all these economic issues that we're having, they're happening for everybody, right? So my example to you would be like, let's just say Usain Bolt is running the 100-meter dash in the Olympics and it's windy. Is he still the fastest person? Is he still going to be the fastest person on the track? Yeah, he probably is, right? Even with the wind. Well, if you think about inflation and this economic stuff, you know, think of it as wind for these companies. So who's still going to be the best companies? Well, it's probably going to be the companies that were already doing well, you know, beforehand. If there wasn't some kind of reason for them to be overachieving, so to speak, right? So when you look at the Pelotons, the Rokus, and oh my gosh, Roku had a bad week. I mean, Roku the other day was down 23% the other day. So Roku over the last 5 years oh my gosh, let's see, they have come down so far. So March of 2020, they were $87. And then in June of 2021, they were $460 a share. And now they're all the way back down to $65. And they will probably, you know, this could age poorly, but man, it's going to be a while before they ever get back to that point. And when you look at another company that that reported horrendous earnings was Intel. Intel's earnings were they're just all over the place. And so Intel is one I would highlight for you because 5 years ago, on August 1st, 2017, you could have bought Intel for $35.07. And today you could buy it for $36.31. And yes, its PE ratio is low. Yes, it pays a good dividend of 4%, but there is no growth. And so, I've already mentioned before, I'm not in this growth versus value camp at all. I don't really think about companies in that way. But if you're looking at people who are looking for value, this would definitely be what would be considered a value trap. And I highlight Intel because if you go back and look at their max chart, they peaked out on June 1st of 2020. June 1st of 2000. They were $74.88 on June 1st of 2000, and they've never gotten back there. Ever. They've never gotten back there. So if you invested in, June of 2000, this thing has been underwater the entire time. And that's 23 years. And so I think that's the scary thing with what we have going on with COVID and how it kind of messed things up. There are companies that ran so hard, so fast, the speculation that we'd all be locked indoors for eternity. There are some of these companies that have come down that will never get back to the price that they were at, because the longer this kind of goes, like this market that we're in today, it looks a lot like the tech bubble of 2000. It just does. It does not look like 2008, where the financial crisis, where the banks were melting down, all the credit issues. It's the same kind of deal as 2000 to me early on. So, and there's a lot of companies. So Cisco Systems is another one. It was they're the ones that do routers and stuff. Back in March of 2000, it was $77 a share. And at the time, it was the largest company in the world. So if you can believe that, Cisco was once the largest company in the world. And now it's $45 a share. And it has never come back to that high that it had back in 2000. Right? So some of these companies that we've discussed, Peloton, those, I think it'll be a little bit of the same. But you look at other companies this week that had really good earnings. Amazon was one of them, right? So when you think of Amazon, or when most people think of Amazon, they think about the retail business, the packages coming to your door no matter what. And that is important. But the real driver, the real story with Amazon is Amazon Web Services. And so Amazon popped 10% this week on their earnings, and now it's still at 135. It's about 135 a share, but its peak was 183. So you're still getting a good price. Obviously it got as low as 106 a couple weeks ago, and you'll probably be able to get it below 135. It's interesting. Once companies report earnings, we just go back into political talk, which obviously we're going to have with the midterms coming up, and everybody just telling you how bad things are. And so, but I would encourage you to, when you look at these earnings reports, I always look. So Amazon had a really strong quarter. I'll just tell you how I do this. So Amazon had a really strong quarter. It's now at 130, 135, let's say. Before they reported earnings, they were at 122. So the way I look at this, and when I'm making decisions on whether I want to invest, if political talk starts bringing Amazon down, right? It starts bringing the market down. We get a lot of negativity, whatever. If Amazon starts going under 122, I look at that and I say, okay, wow, I get that last quarter for free, right? Because now everybody that bought it right after it reported, for some reason, sold it or whatever their reasons are. And so I start kind of watching it like that. So same thing with Microsoft. Microsoft, it's all about their cloud business. And so, that business has done tremendously well. Microsoft's cloud business is growing at 40% a year. And the street was kind of mad initially because they thought they should grow at 43%. Just, give me a break. So it went from 250 this week up to 280. So, that's kind of how you have to analyze these. Apple had a good quarter, which it's amazing how good Apple's quarter was because of China being shut down for most of the quarter. And then China is a very important market to them. But still, Apple, let me see if I can get the numbers here. How much did they sell? They had revenue sales of $83 billion for the quarter in 3 months, right? So, I mean, that's just unbelievable. Earnings per share, 120 versus 116. iPhone revenue, 40 billion versus 38, which that's impressive because they weren't selling a lot in China. And so Tim Cook is just the best operator on the planet, and it's not even close. But you look at these companies, I mean, I look at Apple, which I've increased my personal holdings for this. And, you know, I don't know how you don't like, so a couple of weeks ago, the iPhone turned 15 years old. And I want to highlight what's the difference between like an Amazon, a Microsoft, and with these cloud, you know, these things and the iPhone. Well, the iPhone turned 15, right? And the largest demographic in the country right now, I believe, is people aged 24 to 37. So pretty much the only phone they've ever used is an iPhone, right? And you know, like people who use iPhones aren't switching to Samsung. People who are using Samsungs aren't switching to Apple. Like these are very, very, that the iPhone is a very sticky product. And so when you look out into the future, and you look at like the largest generation, most of you are the ones listening to this, think about what your friends and your peers and how you're doing business. Like you're going to be moving the economy. So when I look at Apple, I look at all the people who have only used an iPhone, and that's all they're going to use because life's going to get busy. They're going to have kids and they're going to do all this stuff, and they're not going to want to figure out how to work a new phone. It's just the way it happens. And then they're going to end up buying their kids the same thing. And then it's just such a sticky product. And so you have this recurring revenue, right? It's all about recurring revenue. And if you'll notice the theme of the companies that I discuss a lot on the ones that I invest in, it's all about that recurring revenue, right? People ordering from Amazon, Microsoft, people pay licensing fees to use Microsoft Word, and now they're doing it on the cloud. It's recurring revenue. Coca-Cola, you drink a Coke, you throw it away. As long as there's people on the planet and they have to consume something, Coca-Cola is going to sell them something, right? Starbucks, McDonald's, like you're constantly having to buy these new products, right? With Cisco, I mean, yeah, you buy a router, but you buy it every once in a while, right? So, you know, those kind of companies are the ones that, for me, make it pretty easy to invest in. And so you'll notice that these are the companies that are going to most definitely continue to win. And I think you have to add shares. So like this year, I have been obsessed with adding shares. I mean, my wife's like, do we have any money? Because every dime I get, I'm putting it into some kind of investment, right? I'm adding to my share count. And so, you know, you have to be proactive, and you got to be able to walk into the fire. And we know by now this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not your financial advisor. So, you know, talk to yours before you make an investment decision. Unless I am your financial advisor, then I just want you to know, I told so many clients this week, I was like, we're going to win. We are going to win. The companies that we own, we are going to win. And I'm just confident in that because the analysis that we do, I just know. And that kind of brings me to this obsession talk. You know, my wife yesterday asked me, what's your podcast going to be about? And I said, I think I'm going to talk about being obsessed. And she goes, oh, you're definitely obsessed. I go, yeah, I know. I try not to be there like all the time, but it's always there, right? And so I'm more balanced. I'm not completely balanced throughout the year. I don't think you should be, but I really get into moments where I am zoned in. I'm like the most terrible person to day drink with, to go to happy hours. Like I probably don't spend enough time doing that as I need to because I'm just constantly inputting data and looking at these companies, but it's what excites me. And so, you know, when I'm running, when I'm doing things, I'm watching videos, I'm looking at people that I admire, I'm looking at things of other people that are obsessed with their craft, even if it's not investments. And so I wanted to highlight some of those for you today because, you know, the thing about, especially if you're younger, it's easy to be hungry and driven when you're 25 years old because you got your whole life ahead of you. you have something to strive for. Maybe you're trying to make more money. Maybe you're trying to be the person who changes the outcome for your family tree. It's easy to be there. When you start having some success, that's when it gets easy to take your foot off the gas, so to speak, right? So the vacations get better, the dinners get better, the wine gets better, whatever it is, it gets a little bit better, and it's easy to tell yourself, oh, I worked hard for this. I don't need to. I can take my foot off the gas. I can coast a little bit, right? It's easy for that to happen. I can't even tell you. It's so easy for that to happen. And so you constantly have to think of different goals. You have to think of different ways to basically prevent that from happening. And so when I look at different, whether it's an athlete or somebody like that, I'm obsessed with how do they stay so driven, right? And that's what I admire. So when you look at, my generation would have been Michael Jordan, and the success he had was unparalleled. And it's like, man, how do you stay so driven? But when you watch the videos of him now and you just realize, my goodness, I mean, he was just completely different level. Kobe would have been another one. The other one I think about now is Tom Brady. All the Super Bowls he's won, retires, spends 5 weeks with his family, his kids, and goes, I think I'm going to play one more year, whatever it is, right? But how do you keep that? What's driving you, right? So I think for some of those guys, it's the fact that they were never the best. They were told, like, they worked really hard. And so if you're not the best, Tom Brady, 199 draft pick, nobody gave him a chance, that kind of thing. I mean, everybody knows Michael Jordan was cut from his high school team. And so you get that hard work behind you, and then you can't turn it off. Right? It's very, very hard to turn that off. And so you're constantly trying to prove somebody wrong, that, prove something, right? And so those are kind of the easy ones. But I want to share with you, there's one that there's a documentary called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's Jiro. Jiro Dreams of Sushi. You can now get it on YouTube for free. It's an hour 22-minute long documentary. It's in Japanese, so if you don't speak Japanese, you definitely need to read it has subtitles, but it's definitely not one you can kind of watch while you're running. I mean, you really have to watch it. And I love this because he's he's 85 years old. He's one of the greatest sushi chefs in the world. And when I literally watched this like 2 or 3 times over a weekend. I just couldn't. I don't know what it is. That's probably overhyping it because, But anyways, he has been making sushi since he was 20 years old, or I think even younger than that. And he is just so obsessed with making the best sushi in the world. His restaurant only has 10 seats. There's no menu. He feeds you what he wants to feed you that day based on the best ingredients. And he's a 3-star Michelin chef, smallest restaurant in the world for that. And he could have easily added 100 seats to his restaurant and filled it every single night and served better than mediocre sushi, and he could have filled the place, and he refuses to do it. Right? And he's so meticulous that he notices when you reach down for a piece of sushi, if you're left-handed or right-handed, and he places the sushi, he'll place it based on that. Versus male or female, he'll make the sushi bigger for the male, smaller for the female, because our mouths are different sizes so that you finish at the same time. I'm telling you, the level of detail is just, I admire that so much, because even though I'm not a painter, even though I'm not considered an artist, when I look at the portfolios that I build, that's how I feel. Like, I want everything to be working in the right manner. And I'm obsessed with that, like building the perfect portfolio, which obviously changes based on what's going on economically. But I am obsessed with that, right? I look at other advisors' portfolios and I immediately see okay, how could we make this better? Not that everything's bad, but like, how could we make this more effective for this person? And so when you watch that and you see the level of detail that he's put into this for, I think he's 95 now and he's still doing it. It's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So that's Jiro Dreams of Sushi. All right. So the other one, this one's more recent, is Sydney McLaughlin, the 400-meter hurdler. And she just broke her own, she has the world record for the 400-meter hurdles. And she just broke her own record, I think, for the 4th time at the World Championships this past week. And, you know, her level of dedication, I mean, she's competing against herself at this point. Like, she's broken the her own world record 4 times. She's almost under 50 seconds in the 400-meter hurdles. And if any of y'all have ever run track, I mean, that is just astounding. I mean, if you can run the 400 normally in 50 seconds, you can get a college scholarship. All right. So just to put this into perspective, her time in the 400-meter hurdles, if you put her against the people who ran the 400 without the hurdles, she would have placed 6th at the world championship. So, you know, when you're competing against yourself, it's just a beautiful thing to see. Eliud Kipchoge, no, I'm going to mispronounce that. Kipchoge is the best marathoner in the world. And that guy he won the gold medal in the marathon at Rio, Tokyo. And there's a lot of really good YouTube videos on him. And, you know, he started off when he was younger. He was losing races. He's 37 now. He did a kind of a not non-sanctioned race. He broke the 2-hour marathon. His fastest marathon is 2:01 in Berlin, but he actually ran under 2 hours, first man to ever do it. And then to put that into perspective, go to your local track, run a 400 in 68 seconds, and then do it 105 more times. And that gets you a marathon under two hours, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. But he's the one who coined the phrase, only the disciplined ones are free. Right? Only the disciplined ones are free. And if you don't rule your mind will rule you. And I love those sayings because he tells people all the time, I'm not running with my legs alone. I'm running with my heart and my mind. And so it has to come from somewhere else because your physical attributes, especially as you get older, right? And you hear athletes talk about this all the time, like, oh, I had to figure out a way to do this a little bit smarter. And when you're young, you can kind of just go out there and do it and your body's fine. You wake up fine. Doesn't get that way when you're older. And so it's the reason that I encourage, especially younger people, to start investing early, to make that first investment. Because later on, if you're playing catch up, it's just such a hard place to be. I mean, you can't not exercise until you're 52 and then decide, okay, I mean, some people can do that, but most people can't. Right? And you don't want to be so far gone. So example time, this week I'm talking to somebody, a business owner, about their financial situation. And they're now in their 50s. They got 3 kids about to go to college. And I'm talking to them about their investments and they don't have anything. It's a business owner, hasn't saved any money. And he's like, but you know, my business was doing really well in my 20s. And at 25, I bought a Ferrari cash. And I'm like, okay, well, what investments do you have? And he's like, I don't really have anything. I've been putting it into my business. It hasn't been doing well the last, 10 to 15 years. And now I'm worried about how I'm going to send my kids to college. And I'm going, okay, there's not a lot I can do. I'm like, where's the Ferrari? Oh, I sold that a long time ago. And, I didn't mention this or video it, but when I was in Chicago, I had a room that overlooked the river, I guess. And, there was a yacht down there. And I noticed that every hour there'd be a new group of people that get on the yacht. They start going off. Girls get on top of the hood of the thing. I don't even know what you call that. I don't know. But the front of it, and they, it's just influencers in the wild taking as many Instagram pictures as they can, on this yacht. Got the buildings behind them looking good, and then 45 minutes later, here they come, and a new group comes. Right? Every hour. And I'm sitting there going, do you want to look rich on the internet, or do you want to actually have money, have wealth, and, provide for your family and your future kids, your grandkids, change your family tree, And so when you look at social media and all this stuff, I mean, is this really sustainable? And I think that's what probably bothers me the most is like, is this person making money in a way that's sustainable, that's not going to go away, and that they're going to have something later on, or are they putting something back, right? Because if you do it properly, you can build a portfolio that'll kick off as much income as you want, and you can go on vacations and do all these things, but you got to be able to put in the work on the front end. And so you got to be obsessed for a while. And of course, I've talked about Warren Buffett and, his longevity. But if you notice, the people that are really obsessed with their craft, they're doing it because they love it, right? And there's no end game, right? There's no, I want to retire at this age, because what else would they do? Like, I had somebody actually ask me a couple of weeks ago if I was going to retire. I was like, why would I retire? Like, every year I get better. And if you were one of my first students, I want to send out a sincere apology. Because hopefully I'm a lot better now. But really, like, I get better every year. Hopefully. I mean, I get, the stocks, I see things more clear. My analysis gets better. I mean, you look at Warren Buffett, most of his net worth has come after the age of 65, right? So, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And don't be afraid to put in the work and look for people that are obsessed with their craft, because someday it's going to be your day. Right? Someday it's going to be your day. So there's a YouTube video that somehow I came across running one day. It's called Golden Boy Callum Scott Hits the Right Note. And it's a Britain's Got Talent video. I've never watched the show except for this 4.5 minute clip that basically made this guy's career. So he comes out and he sings a song. And at the 2:08 mark, right, he's already 2 minutes into this song and people are cheering, 2:07, 2:08. And this is something that I don't know how I noticed this, but 2:07, 2:08 mark, the crowd's cheering. He's halfway through the song and he pulls his hand off the microphone and his hand's just shaking. I mean, his hand is just, he's nervous as can be, but he's powering through because he realizes that this is his shot, right? And it's someday it's going to be your day and you got to be ready. And so that's what you're preparing for, whether it's the job interview, whether it's going out on your own, whether it's that one sales, call that you're making that can change your life, the trajectory of your life, right? And so you constantly, you need to be thinking that, okay, I got to be ready when it's my turn, and be happy for people when it's their turn, and know that your turn is coming, because time moves pretty fast. On LinkedIn, I have a lot of former students that I'm connected to on LinkedIn, and I'll see their picture and I go, oh, I remember having them in class like last semester, and it'll be their 3-year work anniversary. And I'm like, how is that possible? How have they already been in the workforce for 3 years? Right? So time moves fast. It's going to move. This drawdown in investments that we've had, it's not going to last forever, right? You got to take advantage of it. You got to be looking for strong companies that you want to invest in, because they're going to be your gains 18 months from now, 2 years from now, right? And you want that solid foundation that you can keep adding to, because the truth of the matter is, the longer you own a stock, the less risky it becomes, because you've moved off your cost basis. You've started to get dividends. You've started to see how the stock trades. You start knowing the company a little bit better, so you know what their business is like. You know if they're doing well or they're not. And it becomes less risky to own a company the longer you hold it. And so, if Apple right now is $165 and your cost basis is $50 and it goes to $140 because of some, short-term economic issue, you're not worried about it. But one of the biggest problems that retail investors have is they trade their stocks too often, And so instead of holding them for 6 years or whatever, they're holding them for 6 weeks or 6 days, and they never move off their cost basis. They're always nervous. And it's just a terrible way to be, but you have to be able to be patient, which I saw a great quote this week on patience. Let me find it. I have it right here. And it says, patience, the ability to sit with our suffering, right? Because if your stocks go down and your investments go down, it is suffering, right? So to be patient, but you got to be willing to trust the process and be able to make it through so that you can have the success on the other side. So I hope that helps you. It's okay to be obsessed. It's okay to look at others that are obsessed and draw inspiration from them. And I hope this helps you. I hope you've made some investments this year to start your portfolio, and we're always here to help. So again, you can go to leave us a message. What was the name of that place? SpeakPipe. Sorry, just went blank for a minute. You can go to SpeakPipe. You can leave us a message. We'll answer those. We're compiling the ones we got this past week. See if we even have enough to do a whole show. I got some interviews coming up that I think you'll be interested in. One is a sleep expert. So I'm very excited about that one. But as always, I hope this helps you. I appreciate your support. I hope you have a great week. Don't mistake activity for achievement, and I'll see you next time.